Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders made a surprise debut at Coachella this weekend, and he had a stark message for the crowd. Take a listen here.
This country faces some very difficult challenges. The future of what happens to America is dependent upon your generation. We need you to stand up to fight for justice.
This appearance just hours after a rally that Sanders held in Los Angeles with Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was part of their Fighting Oligarchy tour. Over 36,000 were in attendance, making it their biggest rally so far.
The people of this country do not want oligarchy. They do not want authoritarianism.
This movement is not about partisan labels or purity tests, but it's about class solidarity.
Now, users on X applauded Sanders' Coachella speech. Brian Krasenstein writing, he went from the LA rally to Coachella. He's 83 and fighting like this. This should be an inspiration to all of us. If he can do this, we can all do a little more.
Other users were quick to point out maybe that there's a hypocrisy here. Conservative Greg Price said something incredibly ironic about a multi-millionaire who owns 3 houses and has been a politician for the last 50 years, speaking about the evils of oligarchy and wealth to a crowd at a music festival that costs at least $1,500 to attend. Yeah, the Coachella price tag is very significant. Not a lot of...
not where you were this weekend.
Ordinary. I was not there, no. Not a lot of ordinary working class people there. That's for the elites, and, you know, that's fine. He can...
Well, look, and I think a lot of folks, you know, coming to him and saying, you know, well, look at you. He's a best-selling author. He's made his money that way. Also, he's been a congressman forever. He's 83 years old.
Well, unlike him, I think it's okay for wealthy people to have their money and keep it. So we have a difference of opinion.
Well, and 3
I have
homes.
No problem with it.
Let's be honest. Most senators usually do have a home in D.C. So that's one right there. Then you have the home where he lives in Vermont, and then you have his, you know, whatever lake house or whatever it might be. So 3 homes. You're 83 years old. You have what? 2 best-selling books.
Right.
I'm just
anything out of me, I don't care.
Right. I'm just saying.
Get a 4th home, 5th home. I don't care.
Right. I'm just saying. So he, you know, he did his thing. He didn't grow up with a silver spoon.
No.
He grew up in a rent-controlled Brooklyn apartment. You know. So look, he's 83 years old.
Like our current vice president, he comes from humble origins.
So there you go. So I don't know. What's your take on him? Also the crowds that are really showing up for Bernie and AOC.
Look, Bernie has an ability to generate crowds. That's been a clear factor. I've always thought he has been maligned unfairly by the Democratic establishment, that they would have made themselves a more formidable party, Democrats would, by giving him more attention, by getting on board with what he was representing.
Earlier on.
It's clear that he would have stood a much better chance, I think, of defeating Donald Trump in 2016 if he had been the candidate instead of the perpetually unpopular Hillary Clinton, who was forced on the party by the elites she had worked to cater to for years, and that was very bad. Now, having said that, I don't agree with Bernie's policies substantively, so I have no real desire to see him be able to implement them, but you know, I admire, I guess, that he believes in something and is working toward it. And you know, obviously, some things I agree with him on. He's somewhat to my orientation, I guess, on foreign policy and in not leaning into identity politics. He wants to focus things in a class-based way that I think at least makes more internal sense from a leftist perspective. So I appreciate that about him, and he's
well. Look, one thing you can say about him is he's been on brand and on message for years. I mean, he hasn't really swayed a ton. He's you know, really.
No, he believes exactly what he believes.
Yeah, he stays steady, and I think people want that.
As a hippie in 1968.
But you know, I think that the Democratic Party could use that, right? People are drawn to people who stand for something, and what Bernie Sanders and AOC are really showing, I think, is that they believe in something, they're standing for it, and it's attracting a lot of people who feel the same way. And I think that the Democratic Party could learn a lot by watching these two. The question then becomes for the party is, well, how do you scale this message, and is everyone else buying in? And that's something that remains to be seen. I don't know.
They can't and they won't because they have yet to take Bernie seriously or listen to him in any way. And the corruption of AOC shows that. She has become, now she is joining him on these rallies, but she has become, you know, quiescent. She's fallen in place with leadership. They didn't give her that job, the oversight job that I've mentioned this 1,000 times on the show, but it's such a good example of Democrat elites' failed priorities is to make Jerry Connolly an aging and ailing figure of the old guard head of oversight instead of AOC, someone who can actually, like Bernie, draw a crowd.
And who actually reads the bills and reads and talks about them extensively.
Yeah, reading the bills should be the bare minimum of acceptable behavior for everyone in Congress.
Right, but it's not, and she's called them out on that when she first even became part of Congress. So I think that'll be interesting to wait and see thing. Like, let's see how much I think respect they give what the two of these individuals have been able to do pretty much in any state they're going to. They're like the rock stars. So, but yeah, that Coachella price tag is something.
But they've been on the scene. Bernie's been on the scene literally for forever. Yeah. AOC's been on the scene for a while now. Are there new people coming in to the Democratic Party as elected members of Congress or governors or whatever who tap into what they tap into, who generate excitement among both young people and working class people and are, because Bernie clearly achieved something. Yeah. And AOC is maybe the obvious successor of what he's achieved, but who else is there? We used to talk about the squad growing and whatever it was, leftism, democratic socialism.
Well, they've got to figure that out.
They're not. I don't think they've brought more people in. I think the heyday of that moment has come down a little bit.
Yeah, I think they've got to figure that out. That's priority number one. Is who's going to carry the torch, so to speak, and are we going to let them? Are we going to let them? So
I guess we'll find out. That does it for us today on Rising. Thanks so much for tuning in. Please be sure to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss any of our content. And for those of you who like to listen while on the go, we're now available anywhere you can listen to podcasts. See you later.